Okay, I mentioned the term canon genre quite a bit. So it has been requested, and I'm going to explain exactly what canon genre is. Basically, when you take the printed materials that White Wolf has released within your edition and you recognize them and utilize them, that is canon genre. Okay, that means if you're playing old school Werewolf the Apocalypse, then you're going to recognize everything within that sphere. If you're playing Forsaken, you'll recognize everything within that sphere, whatever it may be. Okay, when you're talking about old school world or Werewolf the Apocalypse, which is basically where I focus, um, that means you're recognizing the Amazon wars going on and the Gogolfangs first is in charge of it. You're recognizing that most of northern Africa used to be Silent Strider territory, but they've got very little presence there now. Uh, you're recognizing the various Rage Across the World type um, characters, sites, and dynamics that are in there. What this does is when new players enter your chronicle who are familiar with White Wolf, then they will feel comfortable coming in. Now, obviously, they're not going to know the social dynamics that happen at the character level, maybe even the Sept level, maybe even the Protectorate level, but they will understand the overall genre, and it's something they're going to feel comfortable with. This is a heavy duty type thing that you need to have in place if you're playing in a shared universe campaign. So if you're part of an organization like MES, OWN, TGN, or any or Underground Theater, whatever organization utilizes Werewolf the Apocalypse, it's essential because that's the only way you're going to get any kind of flow between games. Um, this also is a very key thing for troop style play. The bigger your group, the more you really need to utilize this because there are going to inevitably be people who read the literature or they're inspired by it. If they find out that you've basically shot it down, it is kind of a crushing blow. Now, for smaller troops, you can do anything you freaking want, but it's not canon genre. Therefore, don't use that to preach to other people. Okay, when I'm talking about canon genre, it doesn't matter if somebody is watching my video who's in Great Britain, who's in Wisconsin, California, the Philippines, whatever it may be. They're going to understand what I'm talking about because I'm basically talking about interpretations and examples that come straight from the canon literature. If you start talking about weird stuff where you're like, okay, well, there's this new tribe that's been created from black spiral dancers that never fell to the worm. So functionally, the White Howlers had a breakoff tribe. Most people aren't going to accept that. Okay, it might work for your troop. It doesn't tend to work for most of them out there because that's going way outside the concept of what they've set forth for the game. And therefore, people aren't going to necessarily want to walk into something that they're not 100% comfortable with because there's just ways it should be. I mean, if you turn all the Get Offenders into pacifists and turn the Children of Guy into bloodthirsty maniacs, people aren't going to accept that, at least not as a whole if they're familiar with the literature. And it does make it difficult for people who um, start in one of these games who end up moving and going into another game that actually does play by canon genre because they don't understand what's going on, and then they sound like idiots to the people who sit there going, "What are you talking about? The Getter freaking pacifist? That's not how it works." That's part of the benefits for canon genre. Um, it is also very helpful in the fact that if you do have a shared universe, um, and there's a game out there that, let's say you're in Texas and you link up with a game that's in Oklahoma. You guys might have a shared event game or whatever it may be. If you're using a shared universe, like let's say your Silent Striders have all visited the Wheel of Ptah during the Feralia Rite, it gives them some common ground rather than one group sitting there going, "Oh yeah, we've been to the Wheel of Ptah during the Feralia Rite," and the other one going, "Oh, the Wheel of Ptah was destroyed." Now, the longer your chronicle's been going on, obviously things are going to change, but those changes should be something within canon genre. Um, Good example. My game is a carryover from a long-running TGN chronicle. We've left TGN, but the game has continued even though TGN kind of collapsed and a lot of games reset. Okay, so there were various storylines that I ran on a national level while we were there that carry over even to today. Um, we had a plague storyline where a plague that was initiated by the ratkin ripped through the southeastern USA, and a lot of people died, and it left a serious impact. That still has impact on my game today. That has become part of our genre, our canon. Um, there was another story where the Geta Fenris's camp called the Swords of Heimdall basically had been corrupted by Black Spiral Dancers and rose to functionally try to usurp a lot of power. In that storyline, they actually even took over our cairn for a time. Now the Swords of Heimdall, it's something that's well known, and it's hated. And a lot of Get are looked at funny, especially if they start espousing any of the views that the Swords of Heimdall displayed when we ran that storyline. That has become our canon genre. Anybody who's been in TGN will accept it. Anybody who hasn't been can come in and go, Swords of Heimdall, and it gives them something that they can reference or that they've experienced. They go, oh, really? You had problems with the Swords of Heimdall? I've heard about them, especially for Get players. So that's what canon genre is. It's about following some of those stereotypes. The game has set a nice framework for people to have a lot of fun with a lot of storylines. They've given the Black Furies a stereotype. I'm not saying everybody has to play the stereotype, but that means the bulk of the Black Furies are going to be within that stereotype. NPCs should be played as some variant of that stereotype. A lot of your players are going to be some of that. You're going to have Black Furies that are man-haters. You're going to have Black Furies that, revere the wild above all else. You're going to have those Geta Fenris that are truly the power supremacists. You're going to have the haughty, aristocratic Silverfangs. You're going to have the sneaky, conniving Shadow Lords. You're going to have those, scumbag, dirt poor, live in the gutter bone gnars. That is essential to everything. I mean, if you're talking about a game where the bone gnars all of a sudden have all this wealth and become basically, penthouse living playboys, the Glasswalkers are living, in utter squalor. The Silverfangs have forsaken honor beyond everything else. The Wendigo are now living peaceably with the white men. The Children of Gaia are not trying to unite the tribes and are not trying to play the part of peacekeeper. You lose a big aspect of the game. You've created a different game altogether using the same basic material. But it's not going to be something that actually meshes with other people's beliefs and other people's games. So that's my little rant on what canon genre is. I hope it helped a little bit, and it explains exactly why I use that term and what I try to cover in this. That does not mean I'm naysaying those who do it a different way, but it doesn't necessarily mesh, and it's not something that your experiences are going to be something you can judge against others. It's one thing to sit there and say, hey, we've used Gogolfangs first this way. Oh, you've used them that way. And you can kind of compare and see, hey, maybe they did something a little bit better, and maybe they think we did something a little bit better. And it makes us better. Whereas somebody who just said, oh, yeah, he's dead, and we've got this former Black Spiral Dancer, former Ronin, now he's in charge down there. That just looks silly to some people. So I hope this helped. I hope this helped explain some stuff. Everybody's got a different take on what canon genre is. We primarily focus on the Werewolf the Apocalypse. When you look at stuff like Vampire, Mage, Changeling, Wraith, and so on, they're supposed to be used mainly as antagonists and protagonists, so you should have them kind of toned down a bit. But you still should be using some of the stuff. I mean, if you're running a lot of city stuff, you should be running vampires as fairly nefarious, scheming, conniving, overpowered enemies that should scare the shit out of the damn the werewolves. And they should start realizing that, hey, we're physical powerhouses, but our bank accounts got shut down, our kinfolk have gotten thrown in jail because the vampires have all of that influence and such. But I've already had my say on, with Nemesises in another video. So canon genre, I've explained it. I hope I hope everybody understood it. Okay, that's it. Peace out, people.